Hey everybody, Thomas here again with another training video. So in this one I wanted to just do a very quick overview of the plan for this first iteration of this Mosaic training plan idea. So just going over the structure, some of the ideas, some of the basic stuff that I've been planning out. So just for a bit of information, I've done one cycle of this previously, mostly just to figure out what exercises felt right, how much load I could take, that kind of thing. But it wasn't like a full cycle. It was mostly just a test. So this will be the first true full cycle that I go through. So the plan going forward is this is going to be an 18-week long macro cycle, which is going to be very linear. So I'm going to start with a 4-week phase of hypertrophy, and then between each of these phases, I'll do a week of deload. And for deload, it's not total rest. I'm probably just going to go into the gym still, maybe even do a few of the workouts still just to kind of maintain, but really climbing at about maybe 50% of what I would normally do. But anyway, so the first set is going to be hypertrophy, then week off, then strength, then another deload week, and then power, and then after that, hopefully getting the kind of peaking phase for about 4 weeks. It seems like about the time that most people report feeling the best after this kind of linear plan that they go through. So some of the questions to go over. So why am I doing this linear periodization model? So I wanted to do this one first, and I'll do different types a bit later, but I wanted to try this one first because of a few things. So first, with this kind of thing, it allows you to focus very strictly on one aspect at a time. So obviously for 4 weeks, I'm just working on hypertrophy and then 4 weeks of strength. And this does a few things for me, especially on this first go around. One of them is that some of these workouts and just general things that I'm planning take a bit of practice and technique. The biggest one I can think of is like campusing. You can make a lot of very quick gains just learning the quote technique of campusing, that might not reflect an actual increase in your contact strength or power. And this way you have a bit more time to go through that, so that you can get over those noob gains first and then see the actual progression after you get through that. Also, I'm hoping that it helps identify some of the most impactful exercises that I'm putting in here. So the idea being, if I can see a significant progress in one exercise, let's say like my weighted pull-ups or something like that, that might indicate that this was a weakness that I should be working on, and especially if that increase in or that progress in the exercise translates into progress in climbing, either indoor or outdoor. It seems like a decent indicator that hey, this actually helped, that kind of thing. And so far, I've definitely seen that happen. At least having a different rate of progress between different exercises. So I'm kind of hoping this kind of teases out things that I was weak at. And also, this is kind of a standard type of periodization that many people might start with. It's very strict, but it's also pretty easy to understand. A lot of people have gone through like the rock climbers training manual and the rock prodigy stuff from the Anderson brothers, and this kind of fits in with that. Again, it's easier to fit in all of the time just because you have time to focus. You're not trying to context switch between different things. So that's a few of the questions to go through. Next, okay, so this is one that I'm trying out, and just as a premise, or as a kind of prelude here. I know food, especially recently, has become kind of a sensitive subject in the climbing community. And that's a good thing. It's good that people are actually talking about it and some of the issues that people have with food. But luckily, my takeaway and what I'm trying to do here is actually eating a lot more. And my goal is actually to hopefully gain weight, especially in the hypertrophy phase. So this is kind of moving away from the more toxic type of food obsession, those kind of subjects. So hopefully, if I'm going a little bit the other way, it might help prove that. And that's it's mostly just a personal thing. I always had trouble gaining weight, gaining muscle mass, and I'm just kind of curious if that increase in weight will be helpful, like what that balance is between being, way too bulky and just too heavy on the wall, and the other side of not having quite enough muscle to power through stuff. Um, so I am not, a nutritionist. I'm not really anything in terms of climbing science. But one great resource that you should check out if you want to learn more about the nutrition side of things is the Climb Sci podcast. They go into super deep detail on all of the energy systems and things that you might want to know about, and it's super helpful. It gets really into the nitty gritty if you like the science behind it. But the basics that I'm kind of taking away is I'm trying to mostly just watch my protein intake. It's just very broy, but that's one thing I've noticed if I do the calculation that I'm probably just not getting quite enough of. And the idea is when you're in a kind of hard training phase like this, that you're getting about 1.5 to 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. So what I'm aiming for is about 130 grams of protein per day, which is a lot when you actually like count it out. I didn't realize how little protein I was getting, even though I'm not dieting or anything. I'm eating as much as I would normally feel like I need to eat. And then also, I'm not really counting this, but I'm trying to get a lot of carbs in as well. Just pre-workout, post-workout, just trying to make sure I have enough energy during and then also after a workout, just to recover from that kind of stuff. So just a quick overview of what I'm planning on doing, and I've been sticking to this for quite a while. It's not like a super restrictive thing, which is good. It's not hard to do. So for breakfast, I've been trying to do yogurt just with some kind of granola and honey just to make it taste a little bit better, which winds up being about 20 grams of protein. Then I'm trying to eat like an early lunch, second breakfast type thing, of this like rice and beef mixture. And I'll do a quick section after this about just how to make it. It's super easy, but it's nice because you can make it in bulk. You can do a bit of meal prep and just make it for the week and have stuff to eat on the way. And that winds, kind of half of that daily winds up being about 22 grams of protein. And I usually go to the gym at lunch. So then after that, I have a shake, which is 24 grams of protein or so. Then after kind of middle of the afternoon, I would finish up the rice and beef mixture, so another 22 grams. And then I've been trying to really not be restrictive on dinner. First of all, it would drive my girlfriend crazy if I was trying to just like have only a bunch of chicken every day, or trying to do that. So I'm just trying to keep that flexible, but just trying to get protein in there. I'd say this helps quite a bit if you have trouble with any kind of restrictive eating. This kind of fits in well with what I like to do, like breakfast and lunch. It's nice to have different stuff, but really I'm much more functional about it. I'm just hungry. I just want to get something in me. And so this kind of simple, yogurt, rice and beef mixture, that's fine for that. But it is really nice to have variety with dinner for sure. And then later on, I've been trying to eat something before going to bed. So either ice cream, although I have found, as wonderful as it is to try to eat a bowl of ice cream every night, I found that I do wind up, it's probably the sugar doing this, I do wind up kind of waking up in the middle of the night hungry. And it's probably like the insulin spike from the sugar. I think, again, I'm not an expert on that. So going for something a little bit less sugary, like another bowl of yogurt, or maybe some chocolate milk, or even just a protein shake or something, might be the better way to go. But anyway, that winds up being about 130 grams of protein in a day, depending on what you have for dinner. And so that has been my kind of go-to plan as I go through. Okay, so rice and beef. It's pretty easy, like I said. With the rice here, I just used 3 cups of rice in my rice cooker. I use brown rice, but I would recommend using white rice. Just the amount of fiber that you get from all that brown rice in a day can give you a few troubles. Then on to the beef. I just use a couple packages of, it's about 600 grams of beef, so I guess 1,200 grams total, to make 5 to 6, meals. And just, a bit of oil in the pan, typical ground beef sauteing. Just make sure you break it up as you go. This is by far the most labor-intensive part, but it's really not that bad. I use some soy sauce here just to give it a bit of, moisture and flavor. And then the nice thing about this is you can really flavor it however you want. You can, I'm just using some kind of seasoning salt, but just any salt here is helpful just to make it a little bit more palatable for sure. You do want to make it taste at least a little bit good. Here's Tully and Leah making an appearance. That's our new puppy. Tully is the puppy. And then, like I said, you can put kind of whatever you want in here. I was going for a bit of a curry style here, so I just used some, we had a bunch of random curry powder. Just be liberal. There's a lot more beef here than you might think. And then I like spicy stuff, so some of this ghost chili flakes are always helpful. And then just some pepper and whatever, again, really whatever you want in here. I forgot to add a couple things, so just adding some garlic powder. And then I was thinking of a bit of a kind of Moroccan flavor as I was going through here. So I just added a bit of cinnamon too. It kind of adds a little bit of nice variety here. So anyway, just cook all that up as normal, just like you would any other ground beef. And then after you finish up with that stuff, you can go ahead and add it to the rice. So I make sure to use a slotted spoon just to leave as much of the kind of fat and grease in there, just really for taste and texture. It can be kind of weird if you have all of that in there. You can get kind of oily, weird mouth feel, if you will. And then finally, I'm just doing some broccoli too. So just a frozen bag of broccoli, again, from Costco. It's kind of handy. Just dump it in the same pan after getting rid of some of the grease. Put in a little bit of water, steam it up. And then when it's done, just kind of, again, transfer it over to some kind of big bowl and chop it up a little bit like I do here. I actually bought a circular chopper to make this a bit easier, which just kind of breaks things up. And then just divide it up. I divided it up into 6 here. Again, Costco shout out. They had some nice, meal prep containers. After I did this one, I actually wound up dividing it into 5 in the future, just to make sure I have plenty per day, and then usually it gets you through the week. So the next kind of just general aspect is cardio and how to fit that in. I've been looking through a lot of like powerlifting, bodybuilding type stuff just to kind of get their take on a lot of this, just because, like I mentioned in the overall video, they have a lot more history behind it and a lot more practitioners, that just more data basically to look through it. So I do think the climbing community can learn a bit from that community, as much as they try to distance themselves from lifters. But the idea that they put forward in that community is that, there's always going to be a trade-off. You don't have infinite energy throughout the day, and obviously you don't have infinite time. So if you're working out hard, you're not going to have as much energy to do cardio. Or if you do cardio first, you're not going to leave yourself maybe with enough energy to do your workout. So that's one thing to really keep in mind. And because of that, it sounds like the thing that they're in the lifting community in general have been moving toward is this kind of NEAT, which is non-exercise active thermogenesis, which is essentially just non-structured cardio. So like going for a walk, doing yard work, just that kind of general stuff. So a lot of just wearing a pedometer, keeping track of your steps, that kind of thing. Is one thing that helps quite a bit. That being said, if you like cardio, I don't think there's much of a downside to doing it. If you're doing it really seriously, I think there is a decent amount of competition between, if you're doing a lot of upper body strength stuff and cardio stuff, a lot of the recovery, a lot of the nutrients might, find themselves helping out with the cardio side, as opposed to the upper body side, depending on your timing, how what was like the last thing you did, kind of thing. But that being said, I think just doing some running and stuff is not going to hurt you. And when I was younger, I used to be a very competitive marathon runner, and that was when I was getting serious into climbing too. And there was a period I remember when I was reaching my my kind of peak of my running training, which would be like my long run would be 20 plus miles, and it'd be getting close to 100 miles a week, or so, along with serious climbing training. And really, I noticed that my climbing didn't really suffer very much. It actually got a bit better. This was fairly early, so take that with a grain of salt. And also, I was only working part time. I didn't have a full time job, so I had a lot more time to fit it all in. But that being said, I think that if you enjoy both, you should certainly do it. I personally have a lot of trouble with running, just kind of sporadically or on and off. If I'm training for something, I love running. I love doing that stuff, but it's a little bit tough for me to do it, quote, half-assed, after doing it competitively for so long. But anyway, I think that's the way to go for cardio. Oh, the other thing for the neat stuff, if you play any other sports, if you're a tennis player or play frisbee or basketball or soccer or whatever, I think that's probably a great way to do it because, it's fun. You're not just like cramming it in because you want to do it, and it's something that you can have. There's more aspects to it other than just cardio, but it does fit that need, which would be a good solution if you like to do any of that stuff. So again, going back to learning from other communities, trying to move some of those ideas into the climbing training. And these are mostly personal things that I've noticed when I look through their literature, things that I point out. It's like, oh yeah, I kind of fail at that a lot. The first one that's big for me is that training should not be, you shouldn't think of it as like a performance. So um, a lot of the times when I go for a hangboard workout, like I want a PR every time. And if I have a bad workout, it feels bad. It's very difficult for me to back off and say, okay, just having a bad day, maybe lower the resistance a bit. Um, but even when you're just going through, a mesocycle, like a strength mesocycle, it doesn't need to be you going 100% all the time and relying on your gains to increase the load. A lot of the things that you hear about in the lifting community would be these ideas of reps in reserve. So essentially, if your max pull-ups is 20, and you in your workout you did 15, you have 5 reps in reserve, so you're leaving some work on the table there because that it's a lot easier to recover from that. And then the other aspect is this kind of perceived rate of exertion, for especially for like heavier the strength stuff, in terms of how close you are to failure, sort of. Um, and these two ideas are important to keep in mind during your cycle. How you might start off with, let's say, 5 reps in reserve, and as you go up, you're getting stronger, so clearly your reps in reserve, might change, but you kind of lower that as you go, so you're getting closer and closer to your max throughout your cycle. So the idea of this progressive overload that you're doing, and then you have your deload week, so you can recover, and then you move on to the next one. But I think that's one thing to keep in mind, is that your first hangboard strength workout, for instance, doesn't need to be absolute max, starting from day one, and then you keep going, and you might have a plateau and then eke up a little bit and then come down and then back up. It's okay, and it's probably beneficial to not go 100%. And even within the climbing community, a lot of the really successful people, for instance, Yves Gravel talks about this, about how he is able to do a lot of workouts, especially finger workouts, throughout the week, because he doesn't necessarily go all out for each one. And again, going back to other sports, I remember, all the runners are obsessed with, Kenyans and what Kenyans do differently that makes them so good. And that's one thing I remember them talking about is that, um, in a track workout, if you're doing like 400 repeats or something, they would never go to failure. You'd always go until you had, one or two um, workout or one or two laps left that you might be able to do, but you back off so that you still have plenty in the tank to work out the next day. I think it winds up being more beneficial to do a little bit less on the day and have a little bit more frequency in that case rather than just be completely trashed the next day, um, and kind of go from there. And also, you're just gonna get injured a lot more easily that way. And the other thing to keep in mind with that is that you will, or at least I do, have bad training days. So your graph of progress is never going to be, smooth. It's always going to have some dips and some peaks, and just kind of keep that in mind. That you shouldn't panic if you have one bad training day, but if you have many in a row, or you notice a significant downward trend, that might mean that you're already overtrained and that you might need to take, an early deload week or even just a few days off might be enough. But just keep that in mind, and that's a good thing to note. Like at what point did I reach that point of being overtrained, and then the next time you plan, you can take that into account and maybe lower the frequency of the load or whatever, and try to get a little bit closer to overtraining, getting that overtrained spot, right at the end of your cycle. Um, and then the other thing that's always tough is get a lot of sleep. So we actually recently got a new puppy, and that has made this part very difficult. But do whatever you can just to get plenty of sleep. It makes a huge difference. I've definitely noticed a big difference with trying to get that done. Okay, so last quick thing is I did a video earlier on the assessment that I've been using, and so I just wanted to have this list that we can go through, or after each cycle of the baseline stats that I have. So starting off with, there's a lot of hang work here. So 20 mil half crimp, just one arm hang. I've been doing the 3 finger drag hang on the middle Beastmaker, the kind of 22 mil, mostly just because it feels more comfortable for a 3 finger drag. As you can see from the stats, I'm terrible at 3 finger drag, so I kind of need anything. But a lot of the times, I feel it feels a little bit tweaky on some edges, especially in my wrist, and that edge, for whatever reason, feels a little bit nicer. I'm also measuring, the micro crimp 6 mil hangs, two arms, just however long I can. The Beastmaker slopers, which again I'm terrible at. I'm mostly terrible at the ones here at home. The ones in the gym that are a little bit more broken in, I feel like I can actually hold on a decent amount. So maybe I just need to break these in more. But those are pretty nasty for me. And then for upper body kind of strength stuff, front lever, 1 arm pull up with assistance, just a 90-degree lock off, just holding it as long as possible. And then some campusing stuff, so testing the typical 1-5, whatever, and then 1x1. So, going up as high as you can and then coming back down to 1. Um, just as another thing to throw in there. And then because my flexibility is so bad, I've been really trying to work on that. And so I'm just trying to measure my forward fold, length or distance from fingertips to the floor, and my straddle just heel to heel length. So those are the things that I'm going to be keeping in mind. And then I'll try to do videos, going through the cycle. So the first one being hypertrophy, and then kind of the after the cycle is over, how things went. Go through the assessment again, see if anything has changed, and then just some thoughts and things like that. But anyway, hopefully this is helpful. Again, this is just the premise, so it's a lot of just kind of boring stuff out of the way, and then we'll get into the meat of it throughout the next few cycles. All right, thanks everybody for watching, and see you next time. Bye bye.